So just last year, 2020, around September, I've started noticing my life change. I was living in my student apartment, which I knew I had to leave by November. I had 2 months to figure out my life. I was living in a studio apartment. I didn't have to share my place with anyone. I was living in Amsterdam, which is one of the most desirable cities in the world to live, and unfortunately, very expensive. And I was living in my comfortable bubble. I didn't have to pay a lot of money, and I thought, hey, I'm gonna be living in this student apartment for the rest of my life, which was very unrealistic. And when I heard the bad news that indeed I had to move because I'm not a student anymore, I panicked. And according to evolutionary psychologists, there were 3 ways that I could have possibly responded to this threat: fight, flight, or freeze. Something you should know about me is that I've always been a flyer. I always used to avoid my problems. I did everything last minute, and it was really stressful. I didn't make this life easier on myself. And I knew something had to change. And this time it was different. I've decided to fight. I've decided to take responsibility for myself, because who else would? I've started looking for a new apartment, embarked on a financial literacy journey, and I've decided to change my habits. I am a physical therapist, and I always tell my patients, exercise, do this, do that, meditate, do yoga, and so on. But I realized that I wasn't doing those habits consistently myself, and I thought, hey, you need to practice what you preach. And when I've made this conscious decision to show up for myself and to actually stick to what I believe in, step by step, I've started seeing small changes that eventually became rather big changes. Consistently waking up earlier, that I am meditating every morning, that I'm scheduling 10 minutes of yoga in the morning, that I'm running consistently. I've become so proud of myself, and it's hard to admit sometimes that you're proud of yourself, but most importantly, I started to wonder what changed, because I knew that there was something deeper happening inside of me. And quite recently, I've managed to finally identify this new personality trait or identity shift that I've adopted, and that was loyalty. Being loyal to yourself, being true to yourself, self-loyalty. Self-loyalty means that to the greatest extent possible, you don't lie to yourself, you don't perpetually put your own needs on the back burner for the benefit of someone else. You don't try to ignore or rather run from your own problems. And after finally having identified this new personality trait, I again was very proud of myself that I've become someone who prioritizes herself, puts her own needs up front, knows what her boundaries are, and shows up, not for anyone else, but for herself. And one quote that really spoke to me recently is, changing our habits is challenging for two reasons. We try to change the wrong thing, and we try to change our habits in the wrong way. This is a quote from Atomic Habits by James Clear. And further in the book, he is talking about how people need to start with their own identity. So if you want to change your life, you first need to identify who you are and what kind of person you want to be. I wanted to be the kind of person who shows up for herself first, who takes charge of her own life, and who takes responsibility